now.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast.
Daniel Nielsen from the Copenhagen Post.
Joining us now from Copenhagen to talk about some news and issues in that part of the world, it is Daniel Nielsen live via Skype. G'day there, Daniel. How are you?
Good morning, Wammo. I'm very well, and how are you?
Very, very good. Now, a top issue of the day today so far for Copenhagen is xenophobia, or Xenophobia, as we were trying to work out off air.
Zen. I go with Zen, like the Buddhist Zen.
Yeah, why not? Let's do that.
Yes.
What is it with xenophobia and Denmark?
It's a small country that used to be really liberal, and now it's become very conservative and anti-immigration. That's about it in a nutshell, I think. But this week was no different. The Supreme Court actually almost undermined an aspect of Denmark's immigration law in judging a case involving a couple from Ghana. Now, this guy, Ousmane Biao, I don't know if I can pronounce his name correctly, but he came to Denmark in 1993, so it was 15 years ago, or longer. No, it's 2010, 17 years ago, and he's held a job down since 1996, and he became a naturalized citizen in 2002. There's a difference between naturalized citizen and a birth citizen, obviously, and that's important in this case. In 2004, he applied to have his wife join him in Denmark. That was rejected because immigration officials ruled that the couple's commitment to Ghana was greater than their commitment to Denmark. Immigration law in Denmark states that naturalized citizens must have lived in this country for 28 years before they can bring their spouse or partner or wife or husband under family reunification laws.
Because it's a long time, isn't it?
28 years, it seems. It seems just an arbitrary number picked out of a hat. Why would it be 28 years?
That's extraordinarily long. 28. I mean, you'd moved on. You found another family by then.
Yeah, certainly. It's ridiculous. And that can only be circumvented, though. So you can get past it if the court deems the couple's combined attachment to Denmark is greater than that of another country. Obviously, as I said, the courts thought that their commitment was greater to Ghana, and I won't go into the details of that. But the guys appealed the decision, as you would, and it's gone to the Supreme Court. And 3 of the 7 judges have deemed that the ruling constitutes gratuitous discrimination. So they didn't. Obviously, 4 thought it was okay, and so his wife still can't come. But if only one of the judges, or more, of course, had taken the same view, it would have sent shockwaves through the Danish political system, because immigration legislation is just, in the last 10 years, you just can't touch it if you want to be in power in this country. And one of those judges going the other way would have changed that, and it probably would have kicked up debates that would have gone on for years, and maybe maybe an overhaul of immigration law if you're really hopeful and very liberal.
Yeah. People see this as was an opportunity, but this opportunity may go wanting.
Yeah, well, the bleeding heart liberals like me did.
Yeah.
Nobody else seemed to care.
Okay.
The next day, as if nothing had happened, the immigration minister comes out and proposes a points system as an incentive for foreigners to integrate in this country, as if it wasn't hard enough already, or as if it wasn't strict enough already. This proposal is probably going to pass because it has the support of the governing Liberal Party, the coalition partner, the Conservatives, and the ultra-nationalistic Danish People's Party. The rules for gaining permanent residency in this country are pretty tight, as I've mentioned. Those on temporary residence permits, which you usually get if you have a work permit and you want to stay here, if you're married to a Danish person, they can only apply for a permanent permit once they've completed programs of introduction to Danish society, once they've passed several levels of Danish language and lived here for 7 years, and they can't have debt greater than about 15,000 New Zealand dollars. Quite a few requirements already. Under this new proposal, the same rules will apply, but all foreigners are going to have to accumulate points under a system based on their willingness to integrate. So they have to take special language courses, more citizenship courses, they have to enter the labour market. So, of course, critics have slammed it, but they're such a minority that nobody listens, and they're saying that most immigrants aren't going to be able to live up to these requirements, and they're just going to become more isolated as a result. So there.
Well, I think it's interesting for us to hear about here in New Zealand because this issue pops up here all the time as well, especially mainly around election time. But whether or not we're too relaxed or we're too hard on immigrants. So it's interesting to hear how other countries are tackling this as well.
Yeah, well, New Zealand tends to follow these sort of, in 10 years ago, there was a real swing to the right in Europe politically in many, many countries, and a lot of nationalistic parties sort of came not into power, but at least into coalitions and into supporting roles. And you saw the same thing happen in New Zealand sort of 5 or 6 years later, when New Zealand first got a lot of votes on anti-immigration electioneering, pretty much.
Yeah.
And Winston Peters became our foreign minister and things like that. So hopefully things will turn. We'll never know.
But Denmark is forward thinking in a lot of other areas, particularly when it comes to the environment and to technology. So what's going on? What's the latest with the electrification of transport there, in particular vehicles?
Well, yeah, Denmark has a grand plan for having a lot of electric cars in this country, and a sort of a grid, as they call it, is being established with charging stations all over the place. Loads of companies are involved. There's loads of state funding. The plan is to have 500,000 electric cars on the roads by 2020. But the plans have hit a bit of a snag in the last week. The French car manufacturer Renault, which is a major part of the plans, is threatening to withdraw. So Denmark was tipped to be one of the first countries to establish an electric car infrastructure as such. But the French car manufacturer, which is supposed to provide most of the vehicles, is demanding clarity from the Danish government on tax exemptions for electric cars. As you may know, Denmark is has the highest taxes in the world. Actually, a recent survey established that. We've gone back in front of Sweden. I think it's always sort of Denmark and Sweden vying for first place on that one.
Yeah.
And vehicle registration tax is 180% of the car's value. So if you buy a new car or you import a car into the country, you have to pay the state 180% of its value on top of that. So the government decided to exempt electric vehicles from that tax until 2012. And there's been talk of extending that, but nothing's clear yet. And now Renault is saying, sort it out within 6 months or we're going to pull it out, which is quite a blow to the plan.
Right. So it sounds like could be on the rocks, because that would be fantastic, to hear about an actual grid where you can charge your car and make sure you can get from A to B. Without running out of juice.
Yeah, the company that's sort of behind arranging the whole grid it's a company called Better Places, and they're one of Denmark's top energy providers, Dong Energy, which do a lot of drilling offshore and things like that. They're going to be building these charging stations, and one of the ideas was that you, instead of going there to charge your battery, you go there and just in your electric car and you just replace the battery. You get a new one and leave your old one there, so it charges. You don't have to wait for it to charge.
Right. Yeah. So it's like swap a crate almost.
Yeah. Very innovative.
Yeah. Daniel Nielsen in Copenhagen. Thanks so much. We'll catch you same time-ish next week. Twitter.com/Daniel Nielsen as well as where you'll find him hanging out. It's now 5 away from 8.
Kiwi summer! Yeah!
Summer is definitely my favourite time of year. Hanging out with friends that you haven't seen all winter,